love having you guys because you're always so much fun. Always a great time. So we'll just get right into it. If you guys have questions, please come up to the microphone so we can start asking questions. So I just want to make sure that everyone here has already watched the second half of season 2 opener, because if not, you're going to get spoiled. So just so you know. So yeah, it started off with a bang. We saw a lot of you in there, Robin.
They really put me through it. Just
never did an Arkham Asylum jumpsuit look so good.
Oh, well, thank you. It looks, well, yeah, I don't know how it looks.
Apart from when it was on me, right?
Exactly.
So with this, we've got Doctor Strange, played by the amazing B.D. Wong. He's gonna crush it, I can already tell. What's it like working with him?
It's amazing. I mean, this whole show is like continually for me like this experience where, you know, being in New York and the amount of the guest star, and well, he's not a guest star, but the actors that come through Gotham are legendary. And you know, I keep having these like out-of-body experiences where I'm like, in my head, like during the scene, I'm like, holy crap, I'm sitting across from Jurassic Park. You know, like I've been watching it forever, and then to actually have a scene with him is just fantastic. So yeah.
I think my favorite thing from that episode was when he said he was going to introduce the radical psychotropes. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Let's see what comes out. So we haven't seen you just yet. My theory is that while you're in your deep sleep, you are dreaming up some crazy, crazy schemes.
Yep.
So can you confirm that, maybe?
I can confirm. Yeah, she's in the deep sleep, cooking up some trouble. You'll see her in the next episode. Me and Morena had some really fun stuff that we did where I'm asleep and she's kind of a little angry at me, which is fun. And then I wake up kind of a few more on to wait a couple more episodes.
All right, we have some questions. We'll go ahead and get right to it.
Hey, Robin.
Hey, man, what's going on?
The question is, a while back, I read an article that Danny DeVito, who played Penguin in Batman Returns, gave you a big thumbs up for your portrayal as Penguin. Was there anyone else from Batman actor, actress, or comic artist that gave you a big appraisal and that you're honored for it?
Oh, I mean, I have some stuff coming up with Paul Rubens, who plays my dad on the show, who, as many of you know, he played Penguin's father in Batman Returns, and we had an amazing time. And yeah, but I mean, you know, to get approval from Danny DeVito is just a dream come true, unreal. Because you know, you want to like, you know, obviously we're doing something different with these characters than what's been happened before, and especially with the Penguin. And but at the same time, you want to, you know, honor what came before. And I have nothing but like incredible respect and awe of Danny DeVito. So to get his stamp of approval is just a dream come true. And then again, like I said, like it's all these like recurring moments where it's so surreal. And like working with Paul Rubens, he would do things like, he would like, I like the first like 3 days we worked together, I couldn't take my eyes off him because I was just like, it's Pee-wee, you know? And then he would do these things where he would be talking, and you know, he keeps Pee-wee very separate from his other acting projects. And it's a very specific character that he doesn't dip into. But every once in a while, like, he would say something and he'd look at me and he'd be like do like a little thing, and I'd be like, Leslie, you did it! I'd be like, yes, Pee-wee! And it was just, so yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, so that's it, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I also actually, Robin, I read something the other day. I'm really looking forward to Suicide Squad coming out, the Suicide movie.
Yes.
I read something the other day that Jared Leto actually gave you a nod.
Are you kidding me, really?
Yeah. I want to say it was on comicbook.com. We're not affiliated. But it gave you a nod, and we're talking about the performance. And I remember last time we spoke in Jersey, I could kind of equate what you're doing with Penguin, you know, what Heath Ledger did with the Joker, and I think you do a phenomenal job, and he gave you a nod, yeah, that's a little inspiration.
I started sweating.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Wow, I'm amazing. Sorry.
Hi, what's your question?
Okay, so I know the show is like, not intense, but there's like a lot of action and there's like a lot of moments where there's killing and blood and all that stuff. So was there ever like a scene or something that was like super intense, like to film, or like it was just like, not uncomfortable, but just like really intense for you? This is for everyone.
I had one with Kat, played by the lovely Cameron. I had to slap her, which was, certainly arched a few eyebrows. And it was a very difficult scene to shoot. And actually, the take that they used actually was the softer blow, which is, I don't know if you actually saw the episode, but it was kind of violent, that one anyway. But it was a very difficult scene, and it was very brave, I think, of the producers to put something, because it's not a child batterer or anything like that. It's teaching, in many respects, you see her cry for the first time, you see her tear up. And in a way, that was difficult, because in a way, Alfred was kind of right. He was making her feel like a child again. She's in a very big, bad, dangerous world, but there was a huge sort of Twitter sort of explosion and reaction to me hitting her. So that was a difficult scene to shoot for me.
Oh, sorry, that's for all of us. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the scene where Carol Kane, or Gertrude, my mother, died was hard. I mean, it's just it was a really, really, really difficult day, and yeah, so that was the one for me.
I'd say probably the stuff that I shot with Milo, where you played the ogre in the end of the first season, because it was all quite. I mean, it was very physical. Obviously, it was a kind of a torture and a mind torture sort of stuff. So, and we did a lot of filming of that, and I was kind of tied up for a lot of it and stuff, which was physically quite demanding. But I think he was such a great actor to play against during that whole episode, or a couple of episodes, that it was just a delight at the same time as being something quite hard and draining. It was very draining because I was sort of portraying her kind of turning into a new person, or being kind of rewired, I guess. So it took a lot of emotional and physical kind of strength out of me, but I really enjoyed it.
And those scenes between you and Milo, they were very intense and very personal. Did you have a lot of time to kind of prepare yourself, like to get to know him a little bit before, you had to do those scenes?
I mean, the amazing thing about being an actor is I think there's a sort of understanding quite quickly with somebody that you're going to have to go to these very deep, dark, emotional places with them. So you don't do any kind of like, oh, hi, you get kind of straight in with somebody, and you start feeling whatever feelings you need to feel quite early on with them. And luckily, Milo is amazing.
The best. He is the best.
We loved Milo on the show, and he was loved by everybody, all the way through the production. And so it was really, I was very fortunate because he was so pivotal in Barbara's story. I was very fortunate to have an actor that I could play against who was so easy and so talented. And I remember that the I don't think I can tell the story actually. It's probably a bit rude, but he's basically just he does the kind of acting style which everyone's like, go on, tell the story.
You kind of have to now. Anybody want to hear a story?
I can't. When I go on Jimmy Kimmel one day, I'll tell the story then. Okay, when it's a late night program. But he has a similar style of acting to me, which is where we just like getting in the SHIT of it. So you're just acting against someone who is just reacting to what you're doing, which is my favourite kind of acting. So it's really juicy acting. So I was really pleased that he is that kind of guy.
Okay. Hi, what's your question?
Robin Lord Taylor here. So much Oswald Cobblepot material. What did you pull most for your character?
Oh, like what? From what?
From what back? Because there's so much Batman material.
I've told this story before, but Jeff Johns is he's very hands-on with our show, and he, everything that happens in the show is filtered through him. Like, he has a final say on making sure that we're being true to the characters, that the writers are, basically. And so when we all got the job, I reached out to him, we were at some event, or I don't know if it was TCA's or San Diego Comic-Con or something, but I said to him, I was like, I've been like, noodling around finding like different comic books in the past, and I was like, but I wasn't really going anywhere, And I just said to him, I was like, if you have any idea if you have any stories that I should, know, like, recommend them to me. And he hand-selected comics and sent them to me. And the one that was most pivotal to me was Penguin, Pain, and Prejudice, which is, a brilliant story. And so, yeah, that was the main one that sort of, kind of locked the character in for me. But in terms of just like aspects of the storyline, I would have to say, that I really identified with was the fact that Oswald was horribly bullied as a child and mercilessly. And, that just made the character so much more human, and just rooted him in reality, which is something that we're all trying to do with these characters, even though it's fantastic and it's comic book. Like, we want to keep it grounded and keep, the pathos, everything as real as possible. So that's what helped.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, man.
And along the lines of origin stories and history, Sean, what you've done with Alfred, I mean, he's a badass. Right? We love Alfred. And so much so what you've done is even now we look back and we watch, Michael Caine Alfred, he's telling the stories and we can kind of see it in our head. So, what did you pull from, and were you given a lot of freedom just to go ahead and make him the badass that we love?
Well, I think like with the rest of the cast, you try and find our own pentameter and our own sort of heartbeat for the characters, because it's a sort of it's a redefining, not a reimagining of characters that we all know and love so well. And there's 76 years of mythology that's been written previously about them. So the things you, of course, have to make it your own. And of course, this is at a time when you've never seen Alfred and Master Bruce working together and being together. So you have to play the long game before you let the monkey out of the cage, kind of thing. So giving him a military background was something. I tried to stay away from as much of the mythology as I could to begin with. Of course, it's instilled in me, like it is with every generation. We all know how we feel about these characters. So what I tried to do was just to when we started actually shooting initially, I went back to it and we discovered a lot more about Alfred, the fact that his name was Alfred Pennyworth, that he used to carry a cyanide pill in a penny. That's what his life was worth, a penny. And there's all these sort of elements and little details that we started to add to it. So yeah.
Phenomenal work.
Yeah, I love your scenes with David. They're just so visceral. It's just, as a parent, I deal with stuff like that. But the funniest is, when you guys are trying to, he's wanting to get into the room, and you're like, well, if you're going to do an explosive, do it right. So you just build it for him, and it's just, I just love it. It's amazing.
This question's for Robin. Okay, so we fell in love with you on Walking Dead. That was really awesome, and that's a show that it's synonymous with you don't know if you're going to live to the next episode.
Right.
But with Gotham, you're a main character. Does that change anything for like Sean? Sean's going to be there forever because we know Alfred. You're always going to be around. How's that change for you as an actor?
I mean, you feel a little, I would say, I feel a little bit more comfortable with the fact that hopefully I will be employed next year, But at the same time, I don't know, I still, I knock on wood every chance I get. Like, you go, I was I wouldn't say struggling, but, it was a challenge, my career before Walking Dead. I mean, I would do guest spots here and there, but of course there would be a stretch of a year where I wouldn't get cast in anything, and that experience is just sort of hammered into your brain. Like, don't ever get comfortable, don't get complacent. You know what I mean? Regardless, the Penguin, of course, he is the main character, but I don't know what they have plans. I mean, they could go any direction that
I've
they want.
got an idea. Look what I've got on my cup.
Oh, hey.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd be into that. But
Someone gave this to me in New Jersey and I haven't shown you yet.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love that you saved it for the panel so I can get all blushing in front of everybody. But yeah, so anyway, it's a continual thing where you're just, you never feel completely comfortable as an actor, So, but anyway, that's just me. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi there.
Hello. My question for the three of you is, so far, what's been your favorite scene? And then, was there a scene that got scrapped that you wish they actually made?
I'll go first then. So my favourite scene so far was the one with Jem, with Ben in the interrogation room in episode 8 of season 2, because it was a really, we don't get a lot of time on the show because we were trying to achieve so much in such a short amount of time. And so a lot of the time what happens is the scenes get cut down quite far because there's so much written into an episode that a lot of the pauses, etc., get taken out naturally. And you're kind of aware of that, so when you're filming, you're sort of going a bit quicker maybe than usual, you don't take a lot of time. But luckily with that scene, we had the chance, Ben and I, to really, like, we were just 2 people in a room, and it was, because they were filming it at one point through the 2-way glass, which Lee and, who else? Anyway, there was people behind the glass watching us. So because of that, at one point we were actually just in the room, just the 2 of us, like it was real. And it was just such an amazing scene to play out because it was so important to the story between me and Ben's character and Jim. So I think for me it was like the real acting, like just 2 people in a room, which is what I love. So that was like the most enjoyable for me.
One of mine was actually the second part of the season, season 2, which is with Lucius Fox. I talk about kippers and other English breakfast foods, and no one understands what the hell I'm talking about. And I have to say, more power to my American cousins and my new sort of family, the Gotham fans, for putting up with Alfredisms and people actually not understanding half the time what the hell I'm talking about. And I have to say, I love the fact that I've been reading people's tweets and things like that. We as a company try to do live tweets, and all of a sudden the word kipper will explode as people try and search for what the hell the kipper is, which is actually a smoked fish, and things like that. So that was one of my favourite scenes where there's this kind of sparring with the brilliant Christopher Chalk, who plays Lucius Fox. And of course the other one was when I take Master Bruce to confront his bully for the first time. Because that was the first time, one, as an actor, we were allowed outside of the manor, and I'm not making a cup of tea. And secondly, that it's this sort of the first germination and seed that you see of the person who later dons the cowl, who has a sense of morals and to confront people that bully and are scurrilous and are wrong. And so that for me was an intrinsic moment where it's the birth of the Batman that we later know. So when he batters the bully, which we all like to do.
What was didn't Bruno, he wrote some line recently that was such a Bruno Heller is our showrunner and creator, and he's brilliant, but you told me like there's one very, very distinctly British line.
He does lots of little things, he puts little nuggets in. Bruno's actually from Tottenham. And there was a murder actually in the episode when Leslie Tompkins meets Jim for the first time, and there's a hatchet. It's the first time you meet Jerome, who may or may not be the Joker. And there's a hatchet, it's got THFC. Now straight away I knew what it was, being a Chelsea football supporter. It's Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, right, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And he said, no, it's the Hellfire Club. And I, yes, see. So it was such a London thing to do, I have to say, and I just spotted it straight away. That's what it was, yeah.
Okay, so the scene that they cut that I wish they kept in was at some point I was supposed to bite someone's ear off. That was really sad, I didn't get to do that. But Monday Night Today, tell your kids. And then my favorite scene was the scene in the pilot with Jim Gordon where he's marching me down the pier. That was, not only one of my favorite scenes in the whole show, but also one of the best moments of my entire life, honestly. That was where I really felt the scope of what we were doing, and I felt my life change, in that moment. And it's like the sky exploded above me, and it was amazing. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Hello. So speaking of Jerome, I was wondering, what was it like working with him? And is he coming back?
He's an extraordinarily talented man, as you all know. I mean, unbelievable. He delves very, very deep into his dark side of persona, and he would do interesting stuff like Danny would talk to, where he'd stay almost method out, I have to say, that he'd listen to music constantly, and he'd only take his cans off to actually walk onto stage. And as you can, I've been around for quite a long time, and it's amazing watching someone like that when Erin and camera on stage. The level he brought it down to, when he's addressing a room like this, as you know, with the big sort of circus magic magician act that he does and everything like that, he took it down to such a level I couldn't hear him, and I thought, I don't know if he's doing this is quite right. It's only when you see it on the screen you go, boy, does that man know what he's doing. He's an extraordinarily talented man, and we were so lucky to have him. And I thought the premise of his characterization as well, and the fact that he sets the benchmark in many respects for the cult of Joker, I thought was phenomenally brave and talented. And did you see him in the cryogenically frozen tubes? I did. So there you go.
Wasn't he? So yeah, he would stay in character, you know, off screen, and like I unfortunately didn't have any scenes with him, but you told me a story like about talking to him, like you don't want to.
Yeah, so obviously I have a British accent. Don't know if you've noticed. I'm Welsh, and I don't stay in character, and I don't stay in my American accent when I'm not in the scene, because for me, dropping into the American accent helps me become Barbara. So I just am normal Erin when I'm walking around the set. And I noticed that Cameron was introducing himself as Jerome. So I was like, he's method, so he's in character all the time. So I didn't want to then go over and be like, hiya, I'm Erin. Like, you know, like in a super British, cups of tea. So I stayed away from him all day. I didn't talk to him once. I didn't introduce myself to him. I didn't say hi. And obviously we had loads of scenes together. So I would just like stay away from him. He'd go on, he'd set up on stage and whatever, and then we'd do the scene, and I'd obviously be Barbara, and then at the end I'd just walk away. Then at the end of the day, like, you know, we'd cut the last cut, and I was like, I'm Erin, and I've been dying to say hello to you all day, but I didn't want to mess you up. So he was like, oh no, you totally could. He was totally fine, but it, you know, it was amazing to watch him do that, and I have such respect for his acting, and I was so honoured to be able to do all those scenes with him, and I loved our relationship with each other. So hopefully they'll bring him back.
And everybody should watch Shameless if you're not already. He's absolutely fabulous performance by most of the cast, but especially him. So yeah, thanks, man.
The character of Penguin being so intense, how hard is it to put that away at the end of the day when you go home?
It's interesting, yeah. Well, you know, it's not. Okay, so I noticed this thing where on the days where Penguin is like really empowered and he, you know, stabs someone a million times or whatever horrible thing he's doing, or if he's just like he's on top. When he's on top, you know, we could shoot for like 15 hours, and I would come home and I would be like, we're going out, like let's go, you know, like let's go get a drink, you know, like no, my adrenaline would be going so hard. And then it's funny, like the other scenes, like where, you know, he's lost his power, where he's, you know, being degraded, like you saw, like in the last episode that just aired, you know, when he's being heckled by the Arkham Asylum people and all of that. You know, it affects you. Like I would come home and be the complete opposite, where it's just like, oh gosh, I feel like today was terrible, but it was great. Like we did everything great. Why do I feel so bad? So like, you know, it's interesting how the emotions like bleed into your real life, even though, you know, I've taken off the nose and you know, I'm back to my normal self for the most part. It's still like the emotions are still residual. They're still in there. So yeah, thank you.
And I'm glad you brought up, you know, duality, Robin, because that's a reoccurring theme in the show, you know, duality. And Erin, when I think of Barbara, basically it's been two different characters, and it's so believable and so amazing on both ends. So what's been the most challenging part of that, and what's been the most fun of playing both ends of her spectrum?
Well, there's something, I don't know if it'll be a spoiler. Yeah, no, I won't say that. So it's been a challenge, definitely. It's been a challenge because I had to kind of rebirth her at the, you know, what I spoke about with Milo and stuff, and just making it as believable as I could, because of what Robin said earlier, you know, we're trying to ground all this in reality in this wider world of complete craziness. So I just really wanted to give the audience that journey for her. So I had to really think about what was happening with her, and obviously we don't get the scripts, you know, in advance. So there's decisions you're making along the way that you're hoping are going to lead to the right kind of journey that people can follow. But just trying to have the most kind of real version of her in each of those states is what I'm doing, you know, so she doesn't get ridiculous and so that it is believable, I hope.
Absolutely brilliant, and to the point where we root for her, even on this end.
I like that. I like people rooting for bad Barbara.
Well, I know, I told you before that my husband was really concerned that you were one of my favorites. You know?
Yeah, I love that.
Hi, bud.
Do you ever go back and watch your performance?
Yeah, well, you know, we like to, we're encouraged and we enjoy live tweeting be on Twitter during the shows. So oftentimes, because of that, we're watching what happens, and so yeah, so we end up watching our performances quite often actually, which is something that at first I never used to do it. Like it made my skin crawl. So it's really hard to kind of get used to. But once you sort of get over it, it becomes kind of enjoyable just because you learn more about yourself and what you're bringing. You know, it helps to watch it back sometimes, but yeah. But it's different for everybody has a different experience with that. But yeah. Thanks, man.
What has social media done for your jobs? Has it changed?
It's bizarre. I mean, it's so when I went to school, when I went to theater school, you know, Twitter wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't a thing. You know, it was, you know, there were message boards and all of that, but, you know, it was really, if you were interested in something, you would have to go and find it. It wouldn't just be like splash on Twitter. And so there was no, like, no one anticipated this. And, you know, as someone who, like, I hate reading reviews of my performance. Like, it's the worst thing. The hardest thing about live tweeting is that it's basically you're reading in real time reviews of your performance, you know? So it's like, you really have to kind of steel yourself and you know, try not to take it all too seriously, I would say. Yeah.
I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with social media. I'm very, periodically I will just delete everything off my phone, you know, so that I don't wake up and check Twitter and check Facebook and check. And I hope maybe that we as a society will soon stop doing it so much. I don't know. I mean, it's very counterproductive for like living in the moment. You are just literally living completely outside of the moment. You're living in all of the other people's moments, and it's just so unreal. And there's part of me that absolutely loves talking to people. Like, that's the thing that makes me come back to it, is that, and this is why we do Comic Cons and stuff, because I absolutely love talking to people. Like you guys, I love everybody that comes up and chatting and finding out what everyone's like. A woman said today, she said, Gotham has brought me closer to my family, because at the end of the show, we ring each other and we discuss, and it was like, my heart burst with like, so I was like, that is such a gift that you've given me, that piece of information. Because now when I do my job, like I feel such a glow. Like now when I do my job, I know that that woman can talk more to her family. It's like, oh, brilliant. But to me, that's the opposite of what social media does in a way. Like, I think it's a dangerous thing, and I think it distances us all from each other, and I think it makes us think that other people have better lives than us when they don't, because it's all just, you just put the best thing up there. So it's like, I don't know, part of me just wishes that it wasn't real and we could all just talk to each other face to face all the time. And also, like, if you're live tweeting during a program, you ain't watching the program. You're just looking at your phone. So I don't know. Let's get rid of the internet. Let's all just hold hands and sit around a TV together.
Hi there. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Lucas.
What's your question?
Hey, Lucas.
Okay, so this question goes to all of you. If you were to change characters to any character in the Gotham series, who would it be and why?
Karen. Sean, have you got a...
I don't know, I think there's something about Half-Bullet that I really like. I think the thing is, he's sort of the antithesis of Alfred, but they're sort of the same. The fact that he says, you know, he sees the world and he says it how it is. It's very black and white to him. I have a certain affiliation with that. And I think he's a very sort of moral guy, albeit loosely moral. And so I kind of would like to play him. I'd also love to play a villain, which I would love to do. But how can you, you know, big pointy shoes to fill, right? I can't say the Penguin because he smashes it. Penguin.
I would give Ivy a go, just because I think she's so brilliant.
Yeah.
And she just pops up every now and then. I mean, what a great job. She comes in like twice a year and just nails it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I would like to be Fish Mooney. Let's mess it all up. Let's play around with it. But on that point though, what I love about the show is that, you know, people have very, you know, hard, like etched in stone ideas on who these characters are because, you know, people are fans and this means a lot to them and I understand that. What I love about what we're doing is that they don't necessarily, they're not interested in nailing the characters down, so they play around with other characters' genders. Like for example, Firefly is traditionally known as a man. We have a female playing this character in our show. There are certain characters who are much older than you would think they would be. It doesn't make a lot of sense, like if you're staying with a comic book. But they play around with gender, with race, with age, with just sort of changing people's expectations of these characters, which I really enjoy. But yeah, Fish Mooney, yeah.
Thank you.
So in the first episode of this half of the season, you know, we've got Mr. Freeze, which is amazing. One thing I noticed, and we know Arnold Schwarzenegger played him before, there was a scene in the pharmacy when he was like, "I'll be back," and he runs out the door, and I was like, did they just do that? Maybe? Did they?
I didn't even catch that. I feel so embarrassed. I was probably tweeting.
All right. Nana, what's your name?
What is the creepiest villain that you
Creepiest villain?
I have to say BD Wong's interpretation. I mean, I've only ever seen one episode and he's playing it strange. I found he really freaked me out. You know, I think there's something about that, and it's a very difficult role. I think what's so fantastic about BD, his interpretation of it, is that we've never actually seen Strange on the goggle box before. We've never seen him on the TV. I've never seen him on the TV or on a film. So I thought that he's just nailed it. He now is Hugo Strange. You know, so I like him.
Earlier this season, we introduced the Flamingo, played by yeah, and he eats people's faces. That sort of did a number for me. But yeah.
Can I say myself? Myself. I'm really scared when I look in the mirror most days. You have your bow in your hair. So good.
Hey there.
Thank you. I didn't want to have to adjust the mic there. Hi. I love all of your performances so far on the show. They're all fantastic. I love these interpretations of these characters. I'm a theater actor, you know, stage acting, but I've always had an interest in doing bigger things like TV, voice acting, movies, etc. Like I've never get that lucky. And I was just wondering whatever advice you could offer for starting off in that kind of range of acting and whatever, just like personal experiences that you've had near the beginning of this career that you've had.
Well, I think, so first of all, I'd just say that theatre is a really important area of acting. Like, you sort of said bigger things like TV, but I consider theatre just as equally important as TV. And I don't know if you just saw the Oscars, but Mark Rylance won the Oscar for Best Supporting, wasn't it? And he is a well-known theatre actor. I mean, obviously he's done a lot of TV, but he came up in Britain through theatre. So I think if you wanted and, you know, your heart is in theatre, I would definitely hone your craft there because it's such an important bit of acting. Just something that I wish I could do more of. So, you know, grass is always greener as well.
For me, things really changed in my career when I learned to love auditioning, which sounds weird because most people, it seems counterintuitive that you would hate it, but what changed for me is that I started to approach it being like, regardless if I was right for the role or not, I started to look at every audition as essentially like a 5 to 10 minute absolute smash out performance, as though I were on, this stage on a Broadway house, or you know what I mean, or I was like in front of the camera on a Steven Spielberg set or something. Like, I really started to approach it and try and learn to enjoy it, actually. And once I did that, then, I think that started to come through, and then it just made my auditions more vibrant, and I think the casting directors were all starting to respond to it in a much more positive way. So yeah, learn to love auditioning. And that's your chance to do whatever to perform, as though it's the most important performance of your life. So that was my thing.
I wholeheartedly agree, and then also just, and I mean this genuinely, is get used to rejection, because most people get rejected several times in their life and work. It happens 6 days a week sometimes as an actor. And the things I can absolutely implicitly agree with what Robin just said, is embrace that audition process, because you are who you are, and all you have is your own difference. And the thing is, once you're aware of that, you throw yourself in 1,000%, you know your lines, and you go in absolutely focused on your interpretation. There's 1,000 ways to say a line, right? And each one is different. So just be yourself, be confident in yourself, and just do the homework, exactly like Robin said, and use that as a mini performance.
No, I would probably say, sorry, just say also, do something else at the same time. So like write or create different things, so that you're kind of constantly creative and creating. There's a really good book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, that I just read. And that's all about being creative for creativity's sake. Because, the perks of this job is that we get to sit here and talk to you guys and be on a TV channel. All that stuff is so amazing. But actually, what we're here on the planet to do is to create. And that's the joy. That's where we get our real, pure joy, is to create these characters, create acting. That's, if you can be doing that at all times, even if you're not on a TV show or in the theatre at the time, you'll feel fulfilled, and that will carry you through all the auditions and all the rejection and everything, because you'll be bursting with creativity all the time anyway, which is just why we're here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Good luck,
Good luck, yeah.
Yes, bring it away.
All right, guys, we're going to have to wrap in a second, but before we do, my final question to all three of you: if you had to describe your character in one word, what would that word be?
Crazy.
Ambitious.
Badass. Two words, isn't it?
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Sean Pertwee, Walker Stalker Con Dallas.